Hello and welcome back to Talking Wolves. I'm your host, Matt Cooper, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dave as a party. Dave, how you doing, mate?
Other than the football, mate, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, it's just miserable, isn't it? It's so bleak at the minute. I don't know about you, Dave, but when we're this bad, it affects like my whole week. I start to feel all right in the back of my mind. I realise that we're quite bad at football, and there's a possibility of relegation, Lou, and it just drags me down. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, the positive is that I haven't really been much on social media, which is always nice. And it's bad. I even had a daytime nap today. I was that tired yesterday after just straight, mate. I was knockout, mate. Loving life. So
yeah, that's when you know it's bad. Finn, how you going, mate? How's things apart from the football?
Well, no, the football has affected me today. Well, it's only a day later, isn't it? And we were having a discussion a few weeks ago, like, it doesn't affect me anymore. I've grown up, but this one has. I think the build-up has. So yeah, not great, but no.
Yeah. I thought I'd move past it, mate. I thought perhaps it's just part of growing up, but it's
still children.
When we played shit, we've always been like mid to lower table, not like in a relegation dogfight. And now there's actually like serious repercussions and consequences to us playing this badly. Then it really has affected my week. Jord, are you feeling more positive, mate?
No, not at all. No, it's horrible, isn't it? It's shit. And I think I think you get over the period of losing football games affecting your mood, but it's the manner of losing the football game is what has really irked me, I guess, more so about the game and irked a lot of other fans. I think, we accept it's people win, people lose, but you can't lose games of football like that. And it's turning toxic quickly in front of our eyes.
Well, I said it on the fans react. I feel like yesterday's result, time of recording Monday, is a microcosm really of the bigger picture that's happening at Wolves, which we will talk about today. We'll look over the Palace game, the thumping at the hands of Leicester City. We'll preview the Brentford game. We'll be discussing just what the hell is going on at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and of course be taking your questions. But Dave, let's start with the Palace game. First half, one of our better performances. Would you say could have gone in 2 or 3-0 up?
Yeah, I mean, I know we'll talk about the Leicester game. Both games we started off quite brightly, and we looked all right. We knew the challenge that Palace were going to give us in terms of that sort of physicality, and I think that's possibly why Boubacar started. I think he did a good job, and obviously the big surprise was Bueno in the team as well. But yeah, we started off really brightly. Obviously, it was at the game with Jord, and we thought we'd score. At the away end, thought we'd scored quite early on with that Diego Costa chance. He's had a couple of those last few games. Where he's almost just can't get out his feet quick enough. But yeah, the first half as a whole, if we went in 2-0 up, I think that Neves free kick is one that we look at. I think we could have easily got the 3 points out of that game. We should have got the 3 points when you're 2-0 up. But the goal from Bueno, the assist from Bueno was fantastic. I think the whole move in general, it's almost like a training ground move. The goal kick, moving the ball nice and quickly to find Bueno, and it was an unbelievable ball. And I know Jord had captained him on the Betmate as well, so there was some lovely hugs in that. I was trying to find a better word than that, but we had a nice little cuddle after that anyway. So but it was a nice little cuddle after that because it was a special Betmate moment for Jord. But yeah, first half was good. It was good. It was just disappointed how the second half went.
It was a special Betmate moment for George, which helped him finish 63rd overall. But it's one of those. George, did you think that Diego Costa chance was in? And how did you find going to the game? Is it your first game this season been to?
You know what? You just can't from the away end. You can't actually tell because it was obviously the other side of the pitch. I haven't watched the highlights back still, but I've been told it's like a gilt-edged chance. We all thought he scored. I think we were all celebrating, thinking it was in the back of the net, and that's just that lack of match practice, isn't it? In game, just a half a second too slow. Guaita has come down. It's just not really happened. The Betmate moment was special. Captain, we'd had 2 points before the game. Saw the team on.
Dave was livid.
Sprang to the ground. And I said, look, I'm captaining Bueno and vice captain Adama. So I think as soon as that goal went in, I think Finn said it was second maybe in play. I was thinking, this is fantastic. Couldn't believe it. And I thought, it's about time I won one of these. And and I come 63rd, like you said.
Yeah. Dave mentioned there about the goal, which is a really good finish from Adama. That's not an easy finish, and we know he's quite good in the air, but in terms of like where the ball ends up, it's probably not his forte. But Finn, as Dave said there, that they move the ball really quickly, and that's something we've not done all season, is it?
No, and it's the first time it looked like we'd almost rehearsed something. I think, the 7 passes looked like they all knew what they were doing. A real breath of fresh air. Probably with the further information we've had this week, maybe a freak moment. But no, it was nice while it lasted. I said that to Jord that he was second because I was 5th, so I was getting excited for both of us. I think I'd viced Traore, and I think I'd captain Nunes or something, but had Bueno. So yeah, short-lived bit of joy, and as Dave said, could have gone in 2-0 up, and those few short minutes either side of the half, you've got the Neves free kick and then the early goal. But just like, again, we're going to come on to, there was easily that Decore strike that could have gone in as well, saved by the post. So yeah, it wasn't one where we absolutely blew them away, but definitely much more positive than we were seeing.
Yeah, and like you said there, Neves striking the woodwork just as the half came to a close. Dave, Boubacar Traore got his first start, I believe, in the Premier League. What were your first impressions of the first half? And I know he got pulled off early into the second half.
Did he?
But
and then he got substituted as well.
Fatigue.
Come off.
Yeah. No, I thought it was good. It's what we needed, really. I think it just allowed that little bit extra freedom to players like Neves and Nunes. Because, like I said, you got him almost sat in front of that back four. I think he did a job on those Palace players. I think he was unfortunate to get booked when he did, to be fair, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he did a good job, and I don't know why he got subbed off, whether it was fitness or whether it was because of the booking. But I'm surprised he didn't get a start against Leicester. I thought it worked really, really well. The midfield three had a lot more to it than we saw yesterday. It was so disjointed against Leicester, whereas I think they actually had a purpose and a shape against Palace. It's no surprise, as soon as he came off, it almost all fell apart at Palace.
Yeah, it was that triple substitution that absolutely killed us. But, you go in at half-time, 1-0 up. You know that, we've said it so many times in this podcast, Jord, you know that Palace aren't going to come out the same as they were in the first half. You know that Vieira's going to give them a bollocking. But within 2 minutes, we'd shit the bed and we conceded.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, isn't it? It's, a home team, whoever it is, they're going to come out with a spring in the step. You just got to keep it quiet for 10 minutes. Just get yourselves back in the game. I mean, we hadn't even got back to our seats. We're finishing our Carlsbergs and we heard like a roar. And I was like, oh, is that us? And then you heard obviously quite quickly it wasn't us. And we ended up getting the goal up on the phone just to have a look at it. And it's just so, I don't know what Semedo's doing for the goal. Well, both goals, but the first goal as well. He's just, I don't know, he's got sucked that far under the ball. And, you just, it's so like, it's just schoolboy, isn't it? It's just crap. Like there's no other way to describe it, really. You want to be a bit tight, a bit compact, sit in for 5-10 minutes, keep it quiet, then build yourself back into the second half of the game. But yeah, as soon as that goal went in, I mean, all second half there was only one winner for me. They were just coming in floods and floods, and as soon as you made that triple substitution, it absolutely killed us. Because then you brought Matinho and Hodge on, who are technically decent footballers, of course, but then Schluppeneze just started running us, and all of a sudden the game got stretched and the midfield got stretched, and I think that was the one big thing about that game, was that triple substitution absolutely killed us.
The most frustrating thing about that, though, Finn, was in the first half, Semedo had Zaha in his pocket. He was excellent. And he come out like he was concussed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say with Semedo probably being at fault for both. In the first half, I remember several times really praising him. And not necessarily that I think Zaha's one of the best left wingers in the league, but up against Zaha at Selhurst, when they cry every time you go anywhere near him, like he wins fouls for days, I thought Semedo handled him really, really well, was really impressed. And then it's just simple things that are so annoying for the 2 goals. I mean, you could say the whole back four is probably at fault for the second, but no, yeah, a real shame. And as I agree that triple sub, I think we said in the podcast before that we're going to need physicality in midfield. And when you had Nunes and Traore in there, and then you bring on like our two smallest players. That I mean, maybe they had to come off, but could you have maybe staged them a little bit more to not feel like, oh my god, we've lost all our energy straight away? I don't know. If they had to come off, they had to come off. But everyone knows it's easy to see that's what killed us. But also, it was 1-1 at the time. We should have been sharper out the block. So there's several things that went wrong in that second half.
Yeah, I thought Adama had probably his best game of the season as well, Dave. I know we got the goal, but to take off, it was, I believe it was Nunes, the two Traores for Moutinho, Hodge and Gedge. I know you put it on Twitter yourself, and Steve Davis has come out and said it was fitness related, but it just absolutely killed us, didn't it?
Yeah,
that was the turning point.
Yeah, it significantly weakened us. And like Finn said, I know it was 1-1, but I think we had a much better chance of trying to get something out the game, with those players on the pitch. But I can't understand. I appreciate Adama, Boubacar to an extent, but Gedge would have had a full season at Valencia. All of these players, should be fit. They should be sharp. They should be Premier League footballers and available to be playing. Okay, if not 90 minutes, 75, 80 plus minutes easily. So it's a concern. It's still a concern now because I don't think they're fit now. And I said it after yesterday's game. They just don't look fit enough, and they can't compete. Leicester looked like they had an extra 2 players on us yesterday. So I don't know what's going. They need someone who knows what they're doing in charge and fast.
And that applies to everywhere in the club, whether that's fucking mopping the floors in the club shop to making the decisions right at the very top, because it's a shambles. Second goal, Dave. You talk about fitness there. What do you think it is with Semedo not tracking the run? Do you think it's lack of desire or just shagged?
Probably a bit of both. Like we said, he had a good game. The first half was really solid. First goal, like Jord said, should have been better with. Second half, that's who we pointed out straight away in the stadium. The fact that he just didn't track Zaha quick enough, and it was so obvious where the ball was going to go. Collins and Kilman both should have done much better as well. But the fact that Zaha, who, I think he's under. I know, he gets a little bit of hate. I think he's quite underappreciated as a Premier League player because his numbers every season consistently are goals and assists is very, very decent. He gave him all the freedom. He had like 3 or 4 seconds to literally pick where he wanted to put the ball. But Semedo for me was the one I pointed out straight away that he should have done way better. But then there was instances yesterday of Johnny doing the exact same, just jogging after his man.
I couldn't believe it.
This is what I can't understand with our fullbacks at the moment is that there's no consistent runs of performances from them. They can have one good game, so they keep their place in the next game. They're all like so bad. Johnny, I thought wasn't great. Last week Semedo come in. He didn't have a fantastic game against Palace, and then Johnny started yesterday and was atrocious. Aït-Nouri had a good game against Forest, but then was ill, so didn't play midweek. So Bueno now has had 2 pretty solid games, to be fair to him. So he should keep his place. But that right back position, I don't know what's going on.
Well, you can blame me for that because when I did the 4-4-2 right at the start of the season, I had Johnny as our most underrated player.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's been absolute dog shit.
I don't know what it is.
I think I had Gibbs White as my player of the season as well, so we might all be.
Yeah.
Well, I did a big feature with TalkSport last week, pre-recorded, about the appointment of Michael Beale as well. So there's a lesson learned for all of us here. But in Jord, one of the things that was pissing me off the most was like Zaha picking the ball up, and like regardless of what you think of him, he's a tremendous player. It was just so easy. It was like they were playing back cage football, like rolling it around people, just shoving them off and just walking past players.
And that's what I mean about the like with the substitutions that with Schlupp and Eze and Zaha and Nunes and Boubacar can get around the pitch a bit. They're a bit, they've got a bit of pace back, and mobile, agile players, and then they just started running off us. And you know what? It was easy as soon as they scored the second goal. As soon as they scored the first goal, there's only going to be one winner in that game, and as soon as the second one went in, like I say, it was just easy for them. Like, yeah, we had like a potential penalty shout, which you've seen them given, haven't you?
It's a definite penalty.
Yeah, it's one of them. I've only seen the stills, like I say, I haven't watched the game back, but did it come off his knee, didn't it? I think first. Am I right in saying that?
I'm not sure whether it did, but He's not like.
Oh, he's out in an
making-
unnatural position though.
Isn't the rule if you make yourself bigger?
Yeah, and he's made himself
More of a
bigger.
pen than the Forest one. More than the,
Oh,
than the
yeah,
Forest
I
one.
agree with that.
Yeah, for probably both of them, to be honest.
Yeah, and yeah, like I say, it was just so easy, and that's what I've got. That's my biggest problem about this Wolves team at the moment. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I don't mind losing football games. It happens. It's a sport, but it's how you lose games, and we've just got no fight in us. And there's no bottle in this team whatsoever, at all. No bottle whatsoever. You know, if we concede first, I can't tell you. If we go 1-0 down against Brentford, it's more likely they're going to score 3 or 4 than we're going to get back in the game and win.
Villa away was the last time we went down and won.
Yeah, we've got nothing in this team.
Which was over a year ago.
I was going to say a year ago. Oh my God. And we used to be the kings of it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Under Nuno, yeah. But it was a shambles, but not as much of a shambles as a Leicester game, which we'll come on to. But I did touch on how we did on Betmate at the start. Even though Jord captain Bueno, he still finished 63rd. Same as myself. We were joint 63rd, and I don't know where Dave and Finn were. But it wasn't a very good day all round for any of us. But talking of bad days all round, Dave, Wolves versus Leicester City, a 4-0 thumping at the hands of Leicester City, who are in the bottom 3 as well. Similar to Palace, mate. We first 10 minutes we started off all right, but just so like reluctant to pull the trigger.
Yeah, first 10 minutes, right up until their goal. To be honest, we were playing, testing them, playing really, really well. I was rubbing my hands together, thinking, right, we've got a reaction here. We know how disappointed the Palace game was. We needed a reaction, and I thought we'd got it. Threatened them quite a lot, good amount of set pieces, a lot of corners coming in, and then the first sort of lapse in concentration from us. Johnny, I just got no confidence on the ball whatsoever. I don't know what's wrong with him, and he loses out on the ball, and then just a daft foul. I think the booking was harsh by Michael Oliver, but
first foul,
get that free kick, and yeah, I mean, you can't take anything away from the finish from Tillemans. It was fantastic, but just one lapse in concentration, and that it's the difference between us and teams like Leicester. Leicester can be, they're in a bit of trouble right now, but they know if you give them opportunities, they'll put them in the back of the net. Whereas with Wolves, we won't. So that's the difference between us right now. You look at the stats. Wolves had 20-something shots. Leicester had 5, 4 of them in the back of the net. End of story. But yeah, just nowhere near good enough yesterday. And I think if you asked any Wolves fan, I know, some of us are negative and so on, but I don't think anyone would have predicted Leicester to smash us for 4 yesterday.
I said before 3-0 Leicester, didn't I? Because I left on 68,
you also
69.
bet 6-1 Wolves.
I had a dream, and this is how far-fetched it was. I had Wolves 6-1 and Semedo scored a hat-trick. I woke up and turned to the missus and I went, I'm going to put the bet on. And she doesn't really understand football or betting odds, but she said that doesn't sound like something that would happen, considering the mood you've been in for the last 2 to 3 months. But the difference is, Jord, is if that comes to us on the edge of the area, it's more than likely ended up on the ring road.
It did. The Matinho one, didn't it?
Oh, as soon as he walked up to strike the ball, there was no fucking conviction in it.
No. Which one was that in the first half?
Yeah, he
right before.
Dragged it wide. Yeah.
He before it even hit it, he knew it wasn't going in. You could just see the way he approached it. No, but there was no conviction in the strike. He just stroked it.
Yeah,
Jord,
he hit it he could have hit it hard with his cock, couldn't he? That strike.
Yeah, he probably could have. Yeah,
that's the problem with us though. At the minute, you just know the form we're in. And the confidence of the whole squad. Like that was either going to end up like Matinho limp dicking it out for a goal kick, or it ended up in the fruit and veg or Asda, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? It's not going on target. I mean, I wasn't there yesterday.
Oh right, okay, it's a shock.
Hey, that's my second game I missed all season. But, I've got some duty information which I'll share in a bit. But
okay.
Anyway, so after having to actually watch that game back, knowing the result and knowing the fan sentiment and everything, honestly, this watch I've had to do. I mean, I've won my watched The Pianist, and that today was reduced me to as many tears as them the films have, because it was bad. It was just so bad. And you know what? The club at the moment, it's like there's something. It's rotting at the core. It's like a camp. There's something. Whatever it is, we've all got our opinions, but it feels as bad as it did with the double dip relegation in terms of the feeling, the hatred, like the fans. You know, I don't feel like I feel so far removed from this club, and this is a club and a board that actually did everything to like rejuvenate the fans, the city, bring the fans, you know, back in, you know, and the good times. But I feel like a cancer to the club right now. They need removing.
Yeah. One thing that got me yesterday was we haven't got a lot to sing about, and I know they're singing about Scott Sellers, but like the chance of we're fucking shit. Like, I mean, it's not productive for anyone, but I think that's just the end of the tether that fans are at, because players aren't listening to that thinking, well, like that's a rocket up our arse. We want to perform. It's not productive for anyone. It helps no one, but that's the level we stoop to, and you know, a lot of people have said it's been coming. I think that us as a collective have probably disagreed with that up until the last few weeks, but it's almost like this has, for me, come around the corner at 100 miles an hour and just ran me over. The sudden realization, like we're in an absolute pickle here, like we're in a real mess from top to bottom, and I think that's only probably been highlighted since Bruno's gone. I'm not saying it's because he's the reason, but just the way that they've dealt with the whole managerial appointment. We are the laughing stock of the Premier League at the minute, and they've dragged my club's name through the mud with this. It's embarrassing. I mean, embarrassing to support Wolves that you've got Steve Davis in charge. Oh, yes, it's not his fault, but you know, we're meant to be a Premier League club. You've got your first team coach fucking laying balls off in the warm up. You haven't even got any coaching staff at Sunday League. You'd say, come on, lads, like pull together a bit more. Surely you got someone to run the fucking line. But like, it's an embarrassment. They've dragged the club's name through the mud, and they should be held accountable for it. And that's just not Scott Sellers. That's Jeff Shee. That's Sellers. That's Matt Hobbs. It's all of them, because it's simply not good enough, and they don't realise what it means to support this club or put the shirt on. The players don't. The players aren't blameless either. The whole club stinks at the minute. But second goal anyway.
Brief.
I've not seen it back, and it's hard to see from the North Bank, but if you're shouting RB and reject at a player, you know exactly what's going to happen. It was pretty much like 2 minutes after, weren't it, Finn?
Yeah, and again, it was every goal, there's like warning signs. Maybe not a warning sign, but as in I'll start that again. Basically, someone in front of me said, as soon as that Tielemans one went in, and compared it to the Moutinho one, and it felt like every goal was a bit poetic, because they tried that same Dewsbury Hall to Barnes in behind about 2 minutes before. Warning sign. They try it again. I know we've highlighted how off Johnny looked, but they tried it again. We didn't smart up to it. It worked. Obviously, I had a bad view as well, but you could see that the pass was on, just not necessarily how deep it was from goal. But it looked like a great goal, but could have been so easily avoided, especially, you know, like when people try corners once, it's like, well, we can't try that again because they're wisen up to it. They just tried that same move again. It worked. And those first two, came down the same side. And Johnny, as we've said, the right back position. I don't rate Barnes particularly. He has got pace, and that seemed to really show. But yeah, I think Semedo maybe would have matched him with that better than Johnny, seeing as he didn't really seem to get out of jogging at any point.
Joggy Otto.
But no, a real problem. But yeah, that was one of the two changes. Johnny and Moutinho back in. They're two changes I wouldn't have done. And yeah, we probably suffered 2 goals. It's not all his fault, but you can look at him for both. Definitely playing a part.
Well, you look at, obviously, Brendan Rodgers seemed to have been on borrowed time at Leicester, but that's, they're starting to build a bit of form now, and probably rightly so with the players he's got. That's 3 wins in the last 5. But before that, they were having loads of possession and losing games, and he slightly tweaked it so they've gone to a more counter-attacking side, and they're having less possession but winning games. Like, where's that kind of initiative at Wolves? Like, we're obviously, whatever we're doing isn't fucking working. So, but that's the signs of a good coach. But one thing I did notice, Dave, and it was glaringly obvious to me, is just how quickly Leicester were compared to Wolves in transitioning that turnover. When we break, we go backwards. We let the team set, and then it's just low block.
Yeah.
You know, we'll put a ball out to Adama. He'll try and put a ball in the box, and then his goal kick.
Yeah, that was the plan. I even said half time.
Half term. Yeah.
Half term. Yeah, they're clever because it's half term. Plan A, pass to Adama, and that was it. That's and someone said, "What? There's a plan A." I was like, yeah, "True," but like, that's all it was. But they got the ball, and in a flash, they're in our half, running at us. Harvey Barnes, whoever else, you know, and there was just no urgency whatsoever from us yesterday. And I'll go back to your comment about Brendan Rodgers. Obviously, he's got a number of years of top level experience. And I understand, you know, this isn't Steve Davis's fault, but we've got a manager here who his last full first team job was Leyton Orient in non-league where he failed. You know, and we're relying on this guy for the next 10, for a total of close to 10 games with no other backing, no other extra special coaching staff. It's just throwing us in trouble.
It's embarrassing.
So, I mean, at the time of recording, we just started recording. Villa sacked Gerrard on Friday. They've already appointed and announced Emery. You know, I hate comparing us to Villa because the last 3 years, Fat Wolves fans have always compared us to Villa and transfers. Like, oh my God, how Villa signed this player? Since we've been back in the Premier League, they've only finished above us once in the league. So that's why I'm never bothered about their transfers. But the way they've gone about this and this appointment, it just shows it's just embarrassing for Wolves.
Well, this is what happens when George Mendes isn't calling the shots, where it gets left down to Jeff, Matt Hobbs, and Scott Sellers, who have been conducting the managerial appointment. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, but they won't be held accountable for it though, because who holds them account? Because Gore back in China probably isn't arsed. Doesn't seem to be arsed. He's not gonna sack Jeff, is he? Because they're boys.
Well, he might start looking at it when he feels like his investment is tanking. You know what I mean? And that's possibly this is the position we need to be in to be able to gut it, to start again, and go. Actually, let's build a structure, a management structure behind it. Because
I know. Yeah, sorry, mate.
No. Let's carry on.
Well, I know that someone asked Liam Keane on the Express and Star podcast whether Wolves were up for sale, and he categorically said no. I've heard it from the horse's mouth. We'll come on to it a bit later. I've heard different from a very reliable source, which we'll come on to later. But Jeff isn't going to sack Scott, is he? He's not going to sack Matt Hobbs because, and it's all coming out now. Even Tim Spears has said it, that those guys don't make any decisions. Everything is done by Jeff. So if they're just pandering to him, they're not going to go against him, because if they do, they'll lose a job. And I get it. It's just it's an absolute shit show. Move on to the third goal before we talk about everything else around the game. Bit of brilliance from Maddison. He's a good player, and he's such a good footballer.
Yeah, it reminded me of that De Bruyne one I saw down the North Bank end of last season, where he striked it with real power down into the bottom corner. But yeah, took on a few players and finished something that just seems like magical to us because we haven't seen it all season. Pretty standard Premier League football goal, but yeah, it seemed like absolute magic at Molineux. So yeah, at that point it was heads down. Probably third, maybe more the fourth goal than the third. The third, you probably unstoppable, but I think when you add that fourth one, it then looks like they've completely thrown the towel in. But I think that goal in its own, along with the Tielemans one, they're both brilliant goals.
I've seen the fourth one back on YouTube. Dave, were you in the grounds? Oh, you stayed to the end, didn't you? I couldn't watch anymore.
Yeah, I took Liv with me yesterday. She was like, "Can we go now?" It's probably about 75. I was like, "Nah," just because I wanted to see the reaction at the end. It's odds law. I'd leave early to do a reaction, and we end up fucking coming back and winning 4-3 before the fourth goal.
I've got the 3-0 rule. If it's 3-0 down and a go, and it's only twice it's happened against Leicester. And I said to Dan yesterday, my brother went, "There's fucking no chance it's happening again."
Part of me wanted to say just to see sort of what it was like, and there wasn't so much booze ringing around. But like I said, I was just waiting to see who came over. I honestly thought every single player would come over to the fans, and nah, mate, Pedence straight down the tunnel.
He's got to get back ready for his birthday party. He's got to get the party bags ready. And the cake.
There was a few of them, but yeah, the fourth goal. Basically, what had happened was these lads that I was sitting next to had been in the concourse, a whole of the second half. Come back down whenever the fourth
Just to
goal
boo
was,
him.
or as came back down as they were walking across me.
Yeah.
The fourth goal went in, so I actually don't know what happened. They turned. I said, "Oh, I can't believe it's 3-0." I said, "It's 4 now." They turned around, it had gone in. They just walked straight back out. So I didn't actually see what had happened, to be honest. I can't really remember it. I know it was Vardy, and then I didn't really get his celebrations. So.
Oh, he loves it, doesn't he? He loves it. Because I remember messaging you, like saying I told you 3-0 Leicester, and you went, "It's 4." And I went, "I don't care in Bilston." But I can't, like, I get, like, stay and support, but mentally I can't do it. I cannot watch it. I cannot support them when they're just chucking the towel in like that. But Dave, who out of the players came over? I get, well, chanting we're fucking shit and all this. The players probably think, "Fuck, and we're not coming over." But who came over and clapped?
First two that came over to the South Bank were Bueno and Campbell straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Collins was just walking around doing that. I think he was doing his best Emery impression. Neves, obviously, people started chanting his name. Davis, Semedo stayed for a little bit. It might have been one or two others, but I can't remember a lot. But like I said, I think Boubacar went straight down. Podence definitely did. But yeah, it was just frustrating. You know, it was still okay, a good amount of players, and I agree with you. You know, I can see it from both sides. If someone's chanting and booing, you know, they might have, you know, thought the booing was for them. I think the booing was particularly for obviously the board and so on.
They've got to front it though, mate. They've got, like, they paid enough money to front it.
Yeah, I know. And I saw someone comment, and I hate, again, I don't really like bringing the money into it, but they earned more probably from that match yesterday than most people in that ground will make all year. You know, and all they need to do is apologise, clap, applaud, thank them for coming. But ain't going to happen, is it? So
no, it's not like the abuse is directed at them directly. But talking of direct abuse, Jord, fans made it very, very clear of their opinion on Scott Sellers, whether you think it's rightly or wrongly. What were your thoughts on it? The South Bank were going through a repertoire. Sellers make a sub, Scott Sellers get out of my club. Personally, I think it's it should not criticise him, but it's directed at the wrong bloke. I don't know how you feel about it.
I think there's a few of those names you mentioned with Hobbs as well, and Sellers, Davis, but they're all pawns in the game, aren't they?
What was Matt Hobbs doing in South America, by the way? Did I send him on a gap year?
I think he was on a Pablo Escobar tour. I don't know. Knows what he was doing over there. No, but the pawns in the game of Jeff Shee, like I say, like I feel like rightfully or wrong, I don't think he meant it with obviously the soundbite that came out from the ENS podcast. It sort of just poured petrol onto the fire, didn't it? And Wolves fans like a scapegoat, and Scott Sellers is the scapegoat. And everyone at Wolverhampton Wanderers is culpable at the moment. Like we're hearing more stories coming out of the club now that are just unbelievable to hear. And like I say, what I heard yesterday, I was playing golf because I had a friend come back, and I got told by a very good reputable source about Nuffield Health that when it came to Sasa Kalajdzic's deal, he already had a partial tear in his ACL, and the club still signed off on it because the probably backs up against the wall, and they pulled the trigger in a game. When you think about what actually happened, he obviously did his ACL within 45 minutes. Before the game, in his interview, he said he wasn't fit. And even that, there's loads of little things that are happening, and you only hear about this stuff when the club's performing bad. If we won, if we were in the top 4, you wouldn't hear any of this sort of stuff, any of this sort of noise. But I think it's unfair to say it's Scott Sellers. I really do. I think it's Jeff Shee. It's at best, I don't even know what the word is. It's negligence at best, isn't it? What we've done. We've got no structure. We're like Romain. Like there's no structure at the club. We act very immature. Like we're not geared up as a a Premier League team behind the scenes yet. We're trying to get involved in esports, record deals, all this sort of shit.
Cart before the horse, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I get it. You do all the brand. We're not Man United. We're not Liverpool. We're not Arsenal, Tottenham. We haven't got this like fan base. You've got to grow it, and I get you do that via different means, and you generate money that way. We're not the most fashionable football club out there, but it's like a pyramid built on like a swamp in it. Essentially, we're just thinking like there's no foundation there, and as soon as it starts crumbling, the whole lot comes down. And yeah, I'm. You know what? Like you said earlier, Matt, I'm upset by it. To be honest with you, seeing it, I just feel like we had warning signs from from Valencia fans about getting involved with Mendes and it all going toxic and shit, and we all sort of joked and laughed and like, oh, look, we've signed in Neves and Jota, and all the good times were great, but now I really fear for us. And the worst thing about it all is the Albion are fucking diabolical. We can't even take the piss out of them because we're just bad. You know what I mean? The whole thing. Honestly, I'm like, I feel sad. Generally, I'm sad. I feel sad about where we are.
Dave, what were your thoughts on the Sellers chance?
I think people are right to voice a concern. I think I said it on our video. I think the whole sort of structure of the board is dreadful anyway. I think we all know. And again, it's the same thing. Kevin Felwell, Laurie Dalrymple. Whenever people have brought it up and we're doing okay, people just laugh it off. But sort of you look at our decline actually since those guys have left, especially Felwell, and there's certain characters in this club that have left, and then you think, hold on, it's probably a reason why we're going downhill. I think she should be accountable as well. I think that there's no surprise. I think Scott Sellers was just almost the wrong place at the wrong time in terms of the news coming out on sort of Friday. I think it was obviously came from the Express and Star podcast. All of a sudden, the local journalists is jumping to try and support Sellers, which is no surprise. But yeah, I think something's got to be said anyway. And I don't mean they're going to start chanting, fuck off she or whatever. But I think Sellers is the easy target, but he's the face of it. Although whether he makes the decisions or not, he's the face of it. So he's got to be the one that unfortunately takes the stick.
Well, according to Tim Spears, that Matt Hobbs, Scott Sellers have little to no say in first team matters, and everything is done by either George Mendes or Jeff Shee. How is that got? How have we got to this point?
That's bollocks. I think that's bollocks as well. But like,
careful, friend of the podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, no. In terms of like the way the whole thing is structured, it's absolute bollocks. And they've tried to be even with even with the whole coaching thing. Bruno Lage brought his own staff in, and you've got his brother coming in as senior player development. What the fuck is that? Is he a coach or what? What is he? Like, just say coach. Yeah, if you want to put him in a special role, tell him that what his role is. And same with what they call all the board now. They've all got their own manager of football decisions or whatever it is. I don't know.
Director of footballing operations.
Yeah. And then Russell Jones, he's manager of whatever marketing. Yeah. They've all got weird titles. Just do it like a normal football club. Just get a technical director, get your loan manager, get your director of football, which everyone's been screaming out for however many years. Do it properly, because this is why. And like Say said on the thing, how many clubs top level of, I'm not saying everyone's going to have a director of football because they don't, but how many clubs at top level, they've got aspirations to be a top half Premier League club, haven't got a director of football. Or if you have, if Scott Sellers is doing that job, which he's not doing very well, you've promoted someone within who's been
he has no sound that matters either.
Under 18s manager, head of youth development, and now all of a sudden director of football of a Premier League club that should be top half. It's rubbish.
And it prevents people catching like the strays of like, if say Russell's got nothing to do with like anything to do with the team.
I'm sorry for dragging. I more meant Russell's role. You know what I mean? Like,
but we don't know. So it prevents like if Sellers is getting all this hate and he's like, mate, I'm not doing any of this. We don't know, do we? It was a rumor or people taking it from podcasts, and then it spirals like that. I mean, I wasn't chanting because the two lads I sit next to drink with Scott Sellers, so I thought I wouldn't be shouting any vile abuse.
They'll be drinking a lot more frequently after last weekend.
But no, yeah, it's when no one has a clue who to direct the anger at. That's almost even worse. And even just with what Jord was saying before, I've just seen the Athletic article tonight. It says that Sasha Kalajic was brought in by Mendes, which I didn't even know. I know there's a few with funny links like Juba and I think even Andre Grazer. a Mendes client. But there's so much where we don't know what's going on. So it's hard to, maybe it's a tactic. We don't know who to direct the anger at. So maybe we won't, but clearly isn't working.
Well, it could be the case. All right. Well, if you sign for Wolves, your big move to the Premier League. If you sign, Mendes is your agent from now on.
Yeah, stuff like that going on. Of course, with Golden and
we're just seeing like it's being used as a front for Gesture to bring players in and to get them signed up to the agency and try and wash money through. That's so. And when I say wash money, I don't mean launder, as in like revenue streams.
I don't think this isn't the fault of Gesture though. The whole thing, or part.
No, it's not. But we're a football club, not a recruitment agency.
I appreciate that, but then at the same time, I don't think like. I understand why people are frustrated about the thing, but that's up to Jeff Shee to put dig his heels in and say, right, well, if we need a striker, but I don't want it to be a Gesture client. We shouldn't need to rely on him, and I don't think that's the fault of George Mendes. And saying I appreciate people might want to go in a different direction. Same with the manager thing. Unless George Mendes is almost blackmailing us saying, well, if you don't have a Portuguese manager, I'm going to move Neves on or whatever. But that's the thing. If we get rid of George Mendes, we lose Neves, we'll lose Sarr, we'll lose, X amount of players.
So big.
You script your whole club. And I appreciate that, yeah. It's a big decision to make, but I don't think the situation currently going on at the club is anything to do, well,
I think it is only a little bit. And the only reason why I like counter that is the fact of, like, say you've got, I don't know, like you mentioned there, not saying we saw on these players, but say you've got Andre Gray, like you said, because you said he's a Mendes client, and then you've got Troy Deeney. Let's just do it that. They're both worth £2 million. They're going to sign Andre Gray because the agent fee goes back through, and they've got a stake in Gesture. So it's
a hefty stake as well. Fosun's
that's
stake.
What I mean. So like, if they can buy a player who's part of the books rather than non the books, they save the agent fee on the player. So that's where I think it's culpable. Is that? But we've shook hands with. That's the deal we made. That's why we got Ruben Neves. That's what we got Diogo Jota, Willy Bolly in the Championship.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose with George Mendes. At the minute, we're being pumped every single week.
Fucking losing.
Yeah, we are. Should we? It's just honestly, it boils my blood talking about it. It really does.
I was literally that upset at the ground yesterday that I almost felt like crying. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Genuinely, I'm like, you know when you start tearing up. I was like, "What is going on here?" I think I would have got a lot of abuse in SL1 if I just started crying after 2-0 down.
We get the Pirra tonight. The lunatics are running the asylum at the minute. That's how it feels. It's all over the place. This show is brought to you by Green King, your home of pub sport. With over 900 sports pubs across the country, Green King is where the fans go, showing every broadcast game for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, and whether you're at the Bradmore Arms, the Gatehouse, Pear and Partridge, or at the Woodman Inn, if you download the Green King season ticket app, you can receive a free drink when you register and 10% off a great range of drinks 1 hour before, during, and after any match.
That's right, Dave. So if you head to the App Store and search Season Ticket and download the app, listeners of our show will be able to get an additional £5 off drinks when spending £15 or more by using code TalkingWolves. Green King, it's where the fans go and your home of pub sport. Moving on to the weekend's fixture, which is Brentford versus Wolves. Brentford 1 winning 5, but that does include 2 draws. Got annihilated within 15 minutes by the Villa at the weekend. Dave, Brentford were going to react to this, aren't they, the Thomas Frank?
Brentford are gash. Yeah, I mean, they're going to react. We said the same against Palace. Palace had a poor game before we played them last week. They're going to react, especially with them being back at home. We need to improve massively. I think it is a winnable match. I think they, but they're still a good team. Sat in the Premier League right now. They're 10th. They're a good 5 points ahead of us. They've had a good start to the season. They've had a couple of good wins to start, at the start of the season as well. So they've got good players. Ivan Toney, I don't mean no disrespect to Brentford. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get a big move, whether that be in January or next summer, especially if he gets in the World Cup squad. They're a good team. It's going to be a difficult match, but again, on paper, Wolves should be giving them a good game.
Jord, who comes in for you? against Brentford? Would you bring in the likes of Boubacar? Would you give Gedge a go? Wankers for all the pantomime stuff you get with Diego Costa and a bit of grit and determination. He's done next to nothing, hasn't he?
I think you could drop them all, like genuinely outside of Bueno. I do, and I'm not going to be like saying, oh, they all deserve to be whatever. But I think we've got to make changes. Like, for the love of God, I hope we just play our fucking record signing in his actual position. Number 10 thing. Like, he ain't a number 10. Telling you that, he's not a number 10.
Ain't got the awareness for it.
Never be the number 10. Never will be number 10. Let's play him. Swallow your pride. Drop Moutinho, play him next to Neves, or just do it. I'm sick to Steph seeing him out of position, running in the right hand side channel with Scott Sellers' fucking arrow to the corner flag. We don't want to do that. Let him do his thing. Like, that's all I'm asking. Play Núñez in his correct position. I feel like Hwang should come in. Like, I absolutely do. I can't believe I'm saying it. I do, but he should.
You've gone full 180, haven't you?
Yeah, I do, but he should be playing. Like, he's no worse than what we've seen. I've had enough of Pedence. I know we don't score goals without Pedence, but he's doing my fruiting as well. I do feel awful. I feel like as well, like Guedes, like he had his season last season at Valencia where he got those numbers playing as a second striker, almost like a floating 10. I would quite happily see him floating around Hwang. That's what I'd do. I'd play Traoré, Guedes in the 10. You're not playing left wing, actually. Jesus Christ.
Chem Campbell.
Anyone? Maybe Chem Campbell. Play Núñez next to Neves, and then
Guedes just in behind Costa or something.
Yeah,
or not?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Costa's doing it for me either. Right back. I mean, what do you do there? It's like picking like a race, like a racehorse with no knees and like one with like no head. Like, I don't know who you pick. Like I don't know. Like Johnny and Tomato, you pick. You're flipping a coin at the minute, aren't you? Because they're both bereft of confidence. And yeah, I just think for me, I'd go 4-2-3-1. Núñez next to Neves, and then play and pick whoever you want outside of that. But please play Núñez in his actual position. That's all I'm asking.
Finn, are you going on Saturday?
No, I couldn't get tickets. Again, I've still never done Brentford or Bournemouth. I'm not quite.
Last season.
Yeah.
It's like Legoland.
I'm not quite in Yeah, I would like to do it because I never did the old Brentford ground either. But no, still haven't made the cut for tickets or the ballot or anything. But no, yeah, I agree with Jord on the Núñez thing, definitely. I think the first time we did it, I think I even came on here and said that the Núñez thing looked promising, but in that number 10 role, he's not quite. He's just so much better driving from deep. He hasn't quite got that
his
tight
body
area
shape's all wrong. Yeah.
It's just not meant to be that. I mean, I was thinking earlier that I know it's very reactionary and we go, right, change everyone or change the formation or whatever. The possession thing isn't working, but they're not going to upheave and go, right, we're going to go back to counter-attack. So even though I think we could still do something like that, I even think maybe you could revert to a 5. I think all of our fullbacks are better as wing backs. No, there's a case. I know. I don't even know whether Totti's fit, but you've got 3 centre backs. If you really wanted to do it, Aït-Nouri's better as a wing back. Bueno as a wing back in the under 21s looked unbelievable. I mean, he's still done all right at left back as well. I think Semedo's better there. So you could do a 3. If none of the wingers are firing, a 3-5-2, and you go Traoré as in Boubacar, Núñez, Neves in midfield. But I think you do go back to basics. Guedes has been playing well, had a really good season off a big striker. So I think I probably would go Costa Guedes. You put Guedes where Núñez is playing because he shouldn't be there in the first place. I agree. You put Núñez next to Neves, whether that's in a 2 or a 3. But Núñez was unbelievable in a 2 last season. And then we've decided to play him up front. If you're playing Adama, he's best with chalk on his boot. Like, you just go back to base. Put every player in a place where they're best at playing instead of these. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say, but very similar to Jord.
That role that Núñez is playing is the role that Dendoncker played last season, and they both shit at it. Now Dendoncker's gone to Villa. Yeah. I'm like, absolute Cloud Makalele.
In a 4-2-3-1 as well.
Playing Dendoncker's a 6. He's a player. That's where he was for Anderlecht.
We did it a few times. Maybe Leeds.
We play him as a Mazzala.
Chicken tikka. Not rocket science. Play him in the right positions. All we want to see is you spent £45 million on an asset. And we're playing Everton. It's bonkers. It's like what we did with Neves at centre half. Why are you putting your best player out of position?
And close to 30 on a second striker, and he's never played the role yet. So there's a case for 4-4-2, close for a 3-5-2, anything different. But as in a 4-4-2 without Nunes up front or in the 10 or whatever.
Guedes looks like he's doing his national service, mate. He looks like he hates it. He looks like he's anywhere he wants to be apart from Wolverhampton. You know what? I half understand that. But at least make it look like your arse. I think he speaks volumes unless he's not fit that Chem Campbell's come on before him. Like for me, as enthusiastic as Chem Campbell's been, and he looked alright when he comes on. If you spend £30 million on a player, he's your next best option off the bench, or is it that Mendes has just placed him there?
I don't think he's placed him.
It seems
there.
more like that when you're not getting the best out of him. If he's had a fantastic season in a certain place, and then he's moved from Spain to England, and then in the wrong position, there's not much about it.
He's already had a good run of games, has he? Though, to be honest,
no,
a good run.
That's
of
right.
minutes,
Yeah.
like.
If you did go Campbell, Guedes, Traore behind Costa, and then Nunes, Neves, I wouldn't be upset with that.
We shall see. We shall. You know, it's going to be Moutinho and Nunes and Neves in the middle, and Moutinho will drop another stinker.
At least it's Nunes.
I don't think Moutinho was horrific against Leicester, but the issue is the whole middle three were just so disjointed. It just didn't work whatsoever.
It wasn't really a threat.
Like I said, it was as if Leicester had like 2 extra players on. The whole trying to play out the back was an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. Just, the first time we went direct, Costa knocked it down for someone, and we started an attack straight away. So we can't try and play tippy tappy stuff now. We just got to get it up the pitch.
Mixer.
Yeah.
That's why you get Sean Dyche, mate. Do your job. Moving on to the Betmate. So this weekend it is across the Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. So that's Bournemouth v Spurs. There's loads of games here. Brentford v Wolves, Brighton versus Chelsea, Crystal Palace versus Southampton, and Newcastle versus Aston Villa. It's £3 in, and your chance to win £600. Now, if you've not signed up to Betmate already, you can do so by using that link in the description. If you do make a cash bet, you'll get £5 back in free bets. Of course, with all this, please gamble aware. I'm going to talk you through my team now, and you'll probably be surprised to see I've actually got no Wolves players in it. If I could have picked 6 Brentford players, I would have. But unfortunately, that's not possible. With the kickoffs, you can only pick 2 players from the same team. So I've gone David Raya in goal for the clean sheet. Back to Cucurella and Chilwell. Midfield 2 with Miguel Almiron and vice-captain Bruno Guimaraes. And then I've gone up top, captain Ivan Toney and Wilfried Zaha. Dave, have you got any Wolves players in your team?
No, absolutely none. I've gone with David Raya in goal. I'm fairly confident he'll keep a clean sheet. Kieran Trippier and Chilwell at the back. Bruno Guimaraes is my vice with Bentancur in the middle, and Zaha up front with Harry Kane captain.
Feeling confident about Wolves then, mate?
Yeah, always, mate. Always.
Always Wolves. Finn, talk us through your team, mate. That's
so similar, Dave, to mine. I've got Raya in goal, very, very confident again. Chilwell, Trippier, captain Bruno Guimaraes. Then I've got Eze, Ivan Toney. Pretty sure he'll get a goal, and vice-captain Harry Kane against Bournemouth.
Harry Kane.
Now, Jord, you normally put your cock on the block, don't you, and pick it like quite a few from each team. Unfortunately, you can't do this with this game because you can only have 2 from the same team. But how many Wolves players have you selected, Jord?
Surprisingly 0.
Okay, cool.
But no Brentford players either.
Okay, fair enough.
I just thought, you know what? Yeah, whatever.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, sort of thing. So I've gone with Kepa in goal, Trippier and Perisic at the back, Eze and vice-captain Jeffrey Schlupp.
I'll tell you what, mate.
Harry Kane captain, and then Callum Wilson up top.
What's the thoughts behind Schlupp vice-captain, mate? Because that seems like it's done by design.
It's done by design, yeah. I don't know. I just fancied it when I did it earlier. I feel really sad on dropping Hugo Bueno after 2 very solid outings for me, but yeah,
I've got a feeling he'll drop Bueno. I think he won't play.
I think we're gonna see Johnny at left back. That's my feeling.
Well, Ait Nouri's changed his trim, so it normally means someone's going into a bit of form. It's almost like I don't know how to explain it, to be honest. But almost like slick back afro.
Yeah.
I saw that. I didn't recognise who it was when he was doing
Yeah.
the warm up at the start. Yeah.
Trying to think who
Freshman.
it's close to. What other footballer?
It's like Brian Bello. Remember him?
Who's
Big
that?
brother.
Big brother Brian.
Yeah, you remember him?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that trim, it's like afro, but always like combed back. Yeah. Like Marwan Shamak.
I was going to say Shamak. It's a see-through trim. So we're not confident then, boys. Are you confident in the bet, mate? Do you reckon you could get some points on the board? Usually with these pots, we get nowhere near the top because there's so many people who join, but we're not the experts here. You guys are. So that is the 3 p.m. kickoffs. It's £3 in for your chance to win the share of £600. And of course, again, with all of this, please gamble responsibly. Right then, chaps, moving on to the bigger discussion. It's going to be a bit of a bumper podcast, this one, isn't it? I feel like this one could go on for hours and hours and hours. The topic of discussion this week is just what the hell is going on at the club. I know that we've already spoken a little bit about this, but I feel like this is where we're going to almost vent all of our frustrations, get it all out in the open. So start with you, Dave. What is going on?
I think probably most of us probably got our thoughts out, but just before we kicked off, then I do not have a Scooby-Doo what to say. A lot of people know on the podcast, and I know there's a question probably later on about fence sitting because I try and always see both sides of the coin and try and see the positives out of the situation. But even after yesterday's performance, I don't have a clue what's going on and where to turn, to be honest, because we've heard and we spoke about Scott Sellers so far. We spoke a little bit about Jeff Shee and so on, but the whole managerial thing has been a right cock up for Wolves. I think that we should have. I've tried to sort of part of me is thinking probably the right move to go into the World Cup. As long as the right manager's there waiting for us, but I think they've got to use that World Cup break for the new manager. You can't have the 4 or 5 weeks with Steve Davies still in charge and then wait, and bring someone in, throw them straight into the deep end again. Because the chances of us having our heads above the water come the World Cup break is probably unlikely now. So it's been a cock up, and I've said again, I don't want to bring it up again, but I will. The Villa situation, Wolves have completely screwed up the managerial situation, and that's going to cost us big time, I think.
One of the things for me, Jord, is that I just cannot believe is happening, that they're having discussions about drafting in external coaches to come and help out, extra pair of hands for a Premier League football club.
Yeah, it's like the dog and duck, isn't it? That's how bad it is. I think. Look, for me, I just think they've. We're now seeing the fruit of the labour of just poor management, mismanagement from top to bottom. Even when we were riding the wave, like I say, it probably masked a lot of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And like I say, I just feel like foes, they don't deserve this football club. Like, they've given us good times, some of the the best times. I can't European football, FA Cup semi-finals, all that sort of stuff. But the negligence, the mismanagement, the immaturity of the business model, it stinks. And they've took their eye off the ball. They've took their eye off the ball. Transfer window after transfer window. They've been more focused on building the brand with the esports, with your record labels. We're trying to break China. We're trying to do all this sort of stuff. And I understand it from a commercial point of view. I'm not an idiot, I get it. But they've just been negligent about what's been on the field. Granted, we spent £100 million this summer, but we didn't barely spent money in the previous 6. You know what I mean? We stood still. And what happens in the Premier League? You stand still for too long. You go backwards, and you end up going down. And look, I don't want to say we're definitely going down at this point. I mean, before the Forest game, I said 6 out of 10. I'll still put us at 6 out of 10 of confidence of us going down because we've got 26, 27 games left of the season. You can turn it round, but you know what? Sometimes it's in this sort of world, you've got to put your hands up, take your medicine, and go. You know what? We've fucked up. This manager situation cannot go on until the World Cup or after the World Cup because, again, it's negligent. Like I said, Villa sacked Gerrard. they've got Emery, or as of recording, looks like they're going to get Emery. I'm not saying
He's done.
They've done it. It's announced.
So
yeah.
They've acted quickly. They've gone and got.
Do you think they need to reverse their decision, Jord, in regards
They
to
won't
that?
know.
You've got to just. I'm saying like they won't, because it shows weakness, and it shows weakness from the board. It shows weakness.
They've never done that, I don't think. For any mistakes they've ever done, is held their hands up and said, "Look, we screwed up."
They won't, and that's what's going to push us even more into the mire. Is they will not come out and go, "Look, we messed up. We're sorry. We're going to sort it out." Like, I understand they can't help the Lopetegui situation. His dad's ill. And I think the reason why they're waiting until after the World Cup, and again, as morbid as it sounds, I think they're waiting for him to croak it, if I'm being honest with you. But where they did get it wrong is publicly going after Michael Beale, because then everyone's like, "Oh, I'm third choice, am I now?" And then they come out with a line of, "Oh, there was no outstanding candidates." So say you go and approach, I don't know.
Fucking embarrassing.
Gattuso's been linked today, hasn't he? And again, I think that'd be an absolute car crash. But Gattuso, they're going to speak to Gattuso, and he'll just go, "Oh, I thought there was no outstanding candidates 2 weeks ago, so I want X amount of money." Like, they've literally just priced themselves out of anyone they're even remotely interested in, and it's so poor.
It's not even, and I get like they're going to ask for more money, but if you're a manager, and look, they get paid off if they get sacked. It's probably the only job in the world where you get paid off for being shit at. But a managing career is longer than a playing career. And if you keep getting sacked, your stock drops and drops and drops and drops. So for any manager coming in now, they know I'm not first choice. I'm probably not even second choice. I'm more than likely not even third choice. So the club have already got it in their mind that this bloke isn't who we wanted. So you can probably take 2 or 3 weeks off the patience that the board have got. No manager's going to take that. And no manager's going to come into a club where you've got a technical director and director of football and operations who don't make any decisions, and everything's run by the club CEO or the club president, as Romain Says called him. In most football clubs, you have an owner, which is where the money comes from, who day to day doesn't touch the football club. Then you have a chief executive who heads up that, and then you have people reporting into him, such as a director of football, and they work together on the day to day. Jeff Shee should be nowhere near that football club. Fosun should be nowhere near the football club.
No, shouldn't even touch it. No. And to add to your point there, Matt, the only manager that's going to come to Wolves right now in this situation is a manager who's on last chance saloon or is desperate for a job. And what you mean is to almost prove they're on the decline and they're there to prove it. And again, it's going to be someone random. And again, this is why people are clamoring for Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche's stock is not. It's quite stable. He ain't going to come to us. We could ruin that stock. We're going to get someone who. And again, I'm not. It's going to be funny when I say these names, but someone stupid like a Pardew or a fucking Bruce. It's going to be, you know what I mean? These are the only people who are going to actually apply for our job, because it's like, well, no one else wants it. I'll come and do it for you for 6 months, and almost try and prove themselves. And again, that's where I think we are. I think we're going to get someone come in, and it's going to be everyone's going to just laugh even more. We're going to laugh, and it's just going to be, Lopetegui ain't going to touch us if we're rock bottom.
He'll probably go to Villarreal as well now.
Why would he?
Yeah, but he would have joined us in the Championship.
Yeah, but like that was a club on the up though. This club's on the down in it. Like, there was only one trajectory with the players we were signing. We couldn't not get out of the Championship. Signing Neves and Jota, and I know we hadn't signed him at that point, but that was always the plan. It was always
that caliber, Yeah,
I just think we're on the down. I think we're on a downward spiral, and you've got to be an absolute maniac to take it.
What's the solution here, Finn? What is the solution to all this? Who's culpable in your opinion?
I think they've sort of talked themselves or almost actioned themselves into hardly any ways to be able to get out of it. Like, as in, we've highlighted them, but basically going to the press with, Beale's going to be the manager, and then when it's not a done deal, you then putting in a line saying there's no outstanding candidates. You like, as you say, that's not only like, may benefit, backfire financially. It's also, you're telling anyone, if you do have to go cap in hand to someone, we've thought you weren't anywhere near what we were looking for. It's just, you don't need to say it. You don't even need to put out a thing saying Steve Davis is going to say all of it. It's like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking every time? So it's like, there's been so many mistakes in this. Obviously, as we've said, the Lopetegui one, there's no blame there. So you've made one really a mistake. I don't know what I'm saying, but there's maybe 3, 4, 5 things that everyone's gone, what are you doing? And they can't see that. So then you can't really, there's no solution staring in the face because you're now, third choice manager deep, maybe even fourth, whatever's been going on behind the scenes. So whatever happens, it's a mess. Whatever happens from here, the only thing that can save him, as you say, is that you're hoping for a man's dad to die. You should never be thinking that as a Premier League football club.
Yeah.
That is still plan A. That's what they say the wait till New Year.
Yeah, of course it is.
We were in European competition, and now that's our hope. What a life!
Fucking hell.
It has got to that point, but that statement to come out and say there's no outstanding candidates.
No need.
It's as Ronan Keating said, you say it best when you say nothing at all, and that's that's what should have happened. Because to say that now, it's like, right, it's done. We're not going to even look at it. At least if we would have lost at the weekend like we did, and you don't release that statement, you've still got the hope of then going to appoint someone. But to come out with that such a boldly positioned statement, it's just it's calamity. It's embarrassing, and like everyone's laughing at us. You listen to national radio, and it's boiling my blood. Everyone's like, "What the hell has gone on here? Like, what's gone on to Wolves? Because they're meant to be such a well-run, fantastic football club. At the minute, it's amateur hour." Dave, how do you fix this?
I don't have a clue. I do not have a clue.
Thanks for listening, guys. You've been
no, they need to sort out a manager. The best they can find, the best that they can get. They've got to swallow their pride. They've got to hold their hands up, apologise, and get someone in now. Get someone in, and I don't think they'll get a lot of people are still hoping for Gallardo. That ain't gonna happen.
He's going to Villarreal, I think.
Yeah, Lopetegui's your next bet, and I don't know if they're holding out for him, but not a clue. And it's a mess at the minute, mate. I don't really know what else to say.
I don't think that the solution is the manager. I think it goes from the top, and I think the solution.
Yeah, but they're not going to change that mid-season, though. They won't change the CEO and the technical director mid-season. I think you've got to get. Go on.
For the longevity of the football club and sustained improvement, that's where it needs to change.
Yeah,
and I don't think they will. But that for me is the glaring answer. Jeff, at least we know now that since we've done the Romain Saïss interview, everything's coming out that Ask Wolves was nothing but sanitised nonsense, because that's what it was. We all have a committee. No, you obviously don't have a committee. You might take ideas to Jeff, and he's like, "No, fucking see you later." And we know that people from the club listen to the podcast, but it needs to change. It needs to change because we like relegation is staring us straight in the face, and behind the scenes is a shit show. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be a Wolves fan that it's got to this point, and it needs to change. And I never want to call for people's heads because I did it with Nuno, and it's not nice to people lose their jobs. But the way that the whole Bruno situation has been, people should be held accountable for it, and that should be for me Jeff Shee. Scott Sellers comes into a lot of flack and he shouldn't be immune from criticism, but it's with Jeff. He's the CEO. It should fall on him. But because of the way the club's structured and him obviously being part of Fosun, it's never, ever going to happen. It's never, ever going to happen. And there's been a new story that's broke today in the Express and Star. I believe one of their business correspondents has posted an article to say that Fosun have, despite saying they're in a strong financial position, are looking at stripping assets, obviously Wolves being one of them. And there was some news on the Price of Football podcast last week that a club in the Premier League with Chinese owners is open to offers. Now, I spoke to someone today who's extremely reliable with stuff like this, and he's confirmed that it is Wolves. And his reason is that now that President Xi has been re-elected in China, there's no appetite for football ownership over there, and and I know a lot of people have said this, almost trying to cull investment overseas, because the plan was that to almost invest overseas to try and supplement them getting the chance of hosting the 2030 World Cup. Now that the Chinese Super League has fell on its arse and the chance of hosting that 2030 World Cup has evaporated, it's almost an instruction to pull back that investment. So from what I do know, that Wolves are open to offers for people to buy the club. Now, that shouldn't come as a surprise. I think every club's up for sale if someone's got the right money. But it seems that Wolves are, and the club will obviously completely reject this, and I have done on the Express and Star podcast, and they will, because they don't want to show too much leg. If prospective owners know they're up for sale, they're going to come with a derisory offer. So they've got to keep a strong hand. But that's just what I've been told. I don't know anything else on it. But I think that's probably the only way we everything that we spoke about is how we find the solution to it. Personally, that's how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel. But we're not going to have a completely structural and cultural reboot of the football club, because Fosun and Jeff and George Mendes are at the top, and it's not going to change. And especially when you've got people underneath who aren't making decisions.
Nah.
But short term, if a goal goes in off Costa's arse and we win 1-0 and then we beat, is it Brighton after that? And then it all goes back to, I mean, it doesn't,
Yeah,
but
course.
as in, we don't look at it for a while. But
we're quite lucky that
no,
there's a
it's
lot of other
horrendous.
teams that are shit as well. Like, and it's still very, very close. But we've got to be careful. We've got to get a win between now and the break, because 2 or 3 weeks ago, a couple of wins and you shot up to the top half of the table. We've been held back now. And like, you know, Bournemouth were like top 6, top 7 last week. Now they're 14th. But the gap between us and like 14th is getting like bigger and bigger now. So we've really got to try and get 3 points out of one of these next 2 games, to be honest.
Yeah, from a footballing position, I feel like, from what you said, Matt, I think you articulated all that really, really well. I think from a structural position, metaphorically, it needs nuking from the structural position, the whole thing. It needs starting again. Starting again, you know what I mean?
No,
but
he doesn't.
Footballing position, I mean,
Purge.
Forest were the worst team I've seen at Molineux since we've been back up in the Premier League last week. And they're going to beat Liverpool the week after. And granted, it's a Liverpool team with injuries, but they just beat City the week before. This Wolves team right now, where we used to have so much confidence going toe to toe with anyone in the world, we're not going to. If we were playing Liverpool on Saturday or the weekend, should I say, like, there's no way we get that sort of result. No way at all. And that's my fear. Is I don't see, especially after the yesterday's game, there's no fight in this team. I can't see where our next points are coming from. And I hope they're coming against. I hope we get 3 against Brentford. I hope we get 3 against Brighton. I don't see where our next win's coming from. I think the club, it's that bad at the moment. It feels that bad. I feel like we've got away with 1 against Forest. I just don't see us beating a half decent Premier League team. No way.
But obviously, we need someone who's going to come in and galvanise and have fresh ideas and for the want of a better term, put a rocket up these players' arses, because they obviously need it. But the fact that they've essentially hinted that they're not going to make an appointment until the new year, as Dave said, that World Cup break is the time for a manager to come in, get the feet under the table, familiarise yourself with the club, the players, the staff, implement those ideas, work with the players who are there who aren't going to the World Cup. And then when you come back, ready for the Boxing Day game against Everton, you've got a new lease of life. Because you know if Steve Davis is still there come Boxing Day, it's going to be the same turgid shit. And that's nothing on Steve Davis. He's been dealt a bad hand, you could say, or he's got extremely lucky that he's got the Wolves job. Whichever way you look at it, it's not his fault. But it's obviously not fucking working. And the fact that Neves has come out and said it's the right thing to do. Ruben, mate, I love you, but you just knock it on the head. All this shite about, we must do better, we need to stay positive. Like, show it then. Do something about it. It's all lip service. I can't stand it.
And the worst thing is, as well, think about how, not just us, any Wolves fan listening to this, any Wolves fan who don't listen to this, but is on social media, whatever, the feeling, the vibe that everyone's got towards this club right now. Imagine this going on for another, 3 games, and Wolves fans have got to sit and fester on this for 5 weeks whilst the World Cup's on. Yeah. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And then you're going into that Boxing Day. Thankfully, it's away. It probably saves them a little bit. But that home game against Man United on New Year's Eve, say nothing's changed and we're still on this downward trajectory, it will be horrible. It's going to be horrible. And we've still got 2 home games. Well, 3 home games, haven't we, with the Carabao Cup game before that happens. But it's just going to get, that much is going to get worse, worse and worse. And
but on the flip side, if they, they do make the right appointment and we get it in during the World Cup, that us as fans, we've acted and we're going to get behind the team, because at the minute we're not getting behind the team at all. And why would you? Because they're turning in performances like that. But it's not that they're just sitting on their hands. It's vile. Like, it's toxic. It's vitriol. It's a bad place to work at the minute. Wolverhampton Wanderers. They need that appointment during the World Cup and give fans something to sing about, and almost that light at the end of the tunnel, something to get behind a change, something that's going to galvanise not just the players but the fans, because the fans need galvanising. They have them for the past 2 years, because it's as flat as a pancake, Molyneux. Forest game is okay, but it's flat, and that comes from the shit that we're being served. Now, we get what we've spoken about, like Finn said, you get 2 wins, it's all forgotten about with football fans, and we speak emotionally, and our thinking is rational and it's reactionary, but that's the way it is. But you don't really matter when you're winning games, but when you're losing games, all this is highlighted. And I feel like now, if you go on a bit of a streak, I'm not going to forget about it, because we've seen how quickly it can change and how quickly you can get sucked in. The club have got to act. They've got to make those changes. It's got to be a structural and cultural reboot. Whether that means Jeff goes and Scott goes and et al., it's got to happen, because otherwise, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but we'll be playing Championship football next season.
We've got enough quality. The team's got enough quality to turn it around. But
too good to go down. And you said this yourself, Dave, and I know you said you've eaten your words, and people use it as a stick to beat you with. It's not that. A situation has changed, and you've got more facts and figures now to form a better opinion. And that doesn't mean that you're sitting on the fence, or you blow.
What's the worst thing about it, Matt? As well, there's people that I had discussions with about us. Me thinking we're too good to go down, which I still believe is the case. Our team is too good, and we shouldn't be in this place. There's people messaging me and tweeting me, like, reveling in it. Fucking hell, I told you we're going to get relegated.
Yeah.
What are you on about? Why are you like that? Why are you celebrating that we're going to, because you're right about us going down? Just because I showed that little bit of support. You know what I mean? So
it's I hate to say I told you so, Brigade.
Yeah.
And you've got the likes who are still backing Bruno Lage. You're saying he should have given time. Well, personally, I don't think they should have. I think they probably should have stuck with him if we knew this was coming. But people do revel in you having an opinion that doesn't actually come true. And we've seen it the past 2 or 3 weeks as a podcast. The last couple of weeks, it's almost our fault. Like, we're picking a team. The amount of abuse that we've got because Wolves are playing shit, like, we're all big and ugly enough to take it now, and most of it we laugh off. But that's how it's got within the fan base. The thing that I put on Twitter about someone, what can't wait till he bumps into me, see how big I am now. The comment on that video, I'm not even in the video.
The funny thing about that, Matt, was that the comment was during the game. He commented that on the. So, while you watching the football match, your first thing to think is, I'm going to go and comment on Talking Wars podcast or video. So, fucking grow up, man.
But we've noticed that, and I know you have, Dave. Like, the past 2 weeks, it's people going at us. Even with the Sice interview, people going at us.
Yeah, it's the minority, to be fair. It's the minority.
Of course.
And like I said, I've said it before. You can meet 100 people, 99 shake your hand, and one slaps you across the face. You're always going to remember that one. So it is the minority. But thankfully, most people are we're all on the same, singing from the same hymn sheet now, I think, in regards to what's going on at the club. We know they've screwed up the managerial situation. We all know that something needs to change on and off the pitch. So hopefully things happen. And the club starts going in the right direction in the next couple of weeks.
I know a lot of people also think, Dave or Matt or Jord, they're never going to say anything about the club when it gets bad because they're in bed with the club. No, we do things with the club, we work with the club, but when they do something good, we'll say they've done something good, and when they've done something bad, we'll let them know that's the way it is. But just because we don't have nuclear takes when we go 1-0 down, it's like, fucking sell the club. He's gonna get like this has been building, and perhaps we haven't addressed it sooner. But like I said, it's only been the last 2 or 3 weeks where I've realised it just a state of affairs. So apologies if we haven't addressed it sooner. And I know a lot of people have said they've seen it coming, and congratulations, you were right. But unfortunately, you're right about the demise of our football club, and it's horrible. It's horrible to see. It's horrible to hear. Like, I normally listen to TalkSport all day. I listen to podcasts. I can't do it. I cannot listen or talk about football because it makes me feel sick at the state of Wolves now. It does. It makes me feel sick. It makes me feel depressed. It's like a black cloud following me around. But we'll still go. We'll still be there. But
here we are 80 minutes later and you haven't thrown it yet.
I don't want to talk about football. It's probably the longest podcast we've done all season. Should we move on to the questions, lads, before we wrap it up? And can't need a cup of tea or something a bit stronger. So thanks for all those who sent in their questions on Twitter. There was quite a lot around squad value and which players would stay if we went down, which I've left out because I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it, and the answer is probably not many would still be there. But Matty has asked financially what would happen if we got relegated. You still get your parachute payments. If you go back up, they stop. But the thing that concerns me, and I'm not a finance expert, I'm not very good with numbers at all, but that they've borrowed money from Macquarie Bank. They've borrowed against future TV revenue in the Premier League for next 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
3, I think.
3 years. I don't know what happens with that.
Great point.
Well,
I don't know.
You've got to sell assets to pay it, haven't you? We borrowed the money. You know what I mean? Well, it's or at least that's in the agreement. Maybe I don't know if there's any penalties. There's probably financial penalties to leave that because I'm guessing we're drawing down on it year on year, then rather than having like a lump sum of 3 years TV money up front. But there'll be financial implications and penalties of that. And I feel like another thing from a financial point of view is you would imagine a lot of this squad would have a relegation wage drop of like 40%, 30% just to keep you above flow. But
yeah, they will.
Bones about it. If we go down, which again I don't really want to think is a real possibility. I think it definitely is on the cards. Like all those players are getting sold anyway. We've got a lot of sellable assets, haven't we? That's the truth of it. And but you won't be getting 60 million for Neves if you go down. You'll be getting 25.
Yeah.
I know that something came out around August time that they'd taken out a further loan on the TV revenue future payments. That's not actually true. It was just an extension of the loan extension that they already had. On the loan they already had, and I think the payment, I think it's up June 2025. That's what I think they extended it by a year. So yeah, we've got until 2025 to pay back 2 or 3 years of Premier League revenue, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and like you said, it would have to be a fire sale, I'd imagine, to generate that kind of cash.
Yeah.
James Skidmore has asked, "What do you think of the Gattuso rumor?" Dave, it's not really a rumor, is it?
No, I think Odds Checker put something about he's gone down to 2-1, and then you check all the odds websites, and he's
Everyone
like
else is
30-1 still. So they're like, "What are you on about?" Yeah, so it's a load of bollocks, I think.
What do you reckon, guys? I know when I put it in the group chat earlier, Jord, you were dead against it.
I just think it's like pouring petrol onto like a fucking bonfire. Like it'd be an absolute disaster. I'm telling you now. The one
Sometimes
thing,
maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I'm telling you now, it'd be fucking shit. I feel like it's like it'd be one of those. We got at least with the excuse at the moment with Diego Costa is it's galvanising the fans. He's getting the crowd off the seats. It'll be the same with Gattuso. It'll be like, he's galvanising the fans though. When like Brighton put the fourth past us, it's singing Gattuso. He loves paella.
He's put the linesman in headlock.
Pizza, yeah. It's not going to happen anyway, is it? But I just think what we need right now is a sensible, safe pair of hands, and Gattuso ain't that. I'm telling you now. Not at all.
Who would you take, Jord? Like on a tangent, like now?
Right now?
Who would you take? Who would you think would be interested in the job?
I don't like to say. I think you've got to be an absolute lunatic to be interested in it. I still, at the time, I was still advocating Ange from Big Ange from Celtic.
Hey.
He's not going to come.
No.
I saw someone mention Russell Martin earlier, and I just thought, if that is that actually where we are, is that where we're at now? Like, is that actually where we're at? I don't know, mate. I wish I could give you an answer. I don't know. Is the truth? Like, I think that I'm surprised that we've not started getting linked with Gerrard. genuinely, because I feel like he'll want to prove himself, and I think that he's got an ego that will think I can go there and change it and almost stick two things up at Villa that look what I can do. And he did he did a good job at Rangers. Like we said, I think Beale was a big factor in that as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gerrard starts knocking about like a rumour there. I don't think we'll get him, but
no, I don't think. I think he's done a lot of damage to his managerial prospects, man. I really do.
Yeah, I do though. I would, if you're asking me who I'd pick, I'd take Ange from Celtic if I could.
Sean has asked the lads if football is seriously pissing him off at the moment because it's doing my head in. I think we spoke about it at the start, didn't we? Like, it's having such a knock-on effect on me every day. Like, I'm so miserable at the minute. And a win at Brentford will change everything, and it'll be Fosun, love you, Jeff, love you, Scott, doing a great job. But that's what we like as football fans. That's just, it completely changes our outlook on everything. So I feel like we've already answered that one short. And 77 Club have asked to do another Wolves podcast. Harry Mansell and the boys. Harry used to come on our podcast quite a bit. I've asked whether the club have been in contact with us to ask you to stop laying into Scott Sellers. Have you had any contact, Dave?
Ask us to lay off Scott Sellers.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. Not yet anyway, so we'll wait and see. Probably listen to this podcast.
I've seen a lot of people going at like Liam Keane and Jackie Oatley about it, but like I don't think the club would have said to Liam Keane, can you not mention that? Because he's not said anything. He's not said anything bad. He's just reporting what's out there. I mean, the tactic board don't help, does it? Sitting up there with the tactics board, it doesn't. It doesn't help.
And when it looks so like cartoonish, like Jesus,
2 arrows towards the goal.
Do you reckon if we win the next 3 games, there's going to be a kid in the Billy Wright family enclosure with Scott Sellers? Can I have your tactic board, please?
Yeah. It's going to get to a point where I'm going to take an arrow to the next home game.
Like according to Spears again, I hate to keep citing him because I feel like Dave's going to tell his bollocks again.
I didn't mean
rubbish. That's the setup they have with the youth team. So obviously Davies will be managing, and Sellers is up in the stand with like a tactics board and an earpiece giving him help. Apparently that's what they do in the youth team. So I think they've just translated it into the first team. So they also said in that podcast that if we carried on at this goal scoring rate, we'd be the record lowest goal scorers ever. So we might need the arrows.
Oh boy!
I think we'd be on course for 16 goals. The record is 20 for lowest score, and that was Derby County and Sheffield United. So looking promising. Whoever backed to Erling Haaland scored more goals than Wolves this season at 14-1. If I was
that's coming in, I think.
100% coming in.
He's on 17, eh?
Yeah, but all comps, isn't it?
14 in the Prem, is it?
14 in, we're on track to score 16. Yeah. Easy money.
He could go into Ireland for 6 weeks during February and he'd still score more goals than us. Wonder Kid from Clearwater has asked, we keep hearing players aren't playing for the badge. Which players do you believe it is? Is it a thing where Portuguese and Spanish players are less interested because it isn't their home country? I don't think that's the case.
Fucking hell.
I don't think that's the case. It's still it's still a job, isn't it?
Yeah, they all want to win a football match, innit? Yeah. They might just not. Yeah, it's not that. I mean, no one wants a relegation on the CV, whatever level you play at. So.
And the final question is from Rafa07. I think it's probably more from Dave because he's fetching splinters out his arse. Why did it take you fence sitters 12 months to get off the fence? I nearly said face sitters there.
So this time 12 months, Rafa, we were sort of in and around the top 7. So why on earth would I need to get off the fence?
Here he goes.
When we're there. If you said last 6 months, fairs, what's he on about, man? 12 months, you know. This is another example of someone like reveling in it, though.
Yeah.
So, hey, like you've been sat on the fence. Look, I've been right about us being shit for over a year. Who gives a shit?
A broken clock's right twice a day, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I've only joined the podcast about 5 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
yes, George still in his probation. Finn, what about you?
Get signed off for Christmas.
He's only on Christmas temp.
Well, to be fair on stuff like that, I mean, with mid West Ham match, me and my girlfriend agreed to split up to see if it would, because I hadn't won a game since I've been with her, and it didn't work.
Okay.
So, and then we got back together.
You were single
so
for that 45 minutes.
Yeah, for about yeah. So I've got a new anniversary, so it saves me a bit of time now.
Yeah.
But we're trying all sorts of voodoo shit. But no, nothing's working.
Did you issue a statement during those 45 minutes to say that there's no outstanding candidates?
Yeah. I'll go back to her now. Yeah. Jesus.
I don't think I've sat on the fence, if I'm totally honest. I feel like today I'm definitely know which kind of ballpark I'm in, just because I'm so pissed off with it. And in 3 months' time, if we're doing well again, I probably won't talk about it because I'll be too happy about us winning games. And I know people will say, "Oh, he's just fickle." We're football fans; we're all fickle. Get over it. But I called for Nuno's head really early, so I can't say that I've sat on the fence. You know, stuff like that, and I got a lot of stick for it. So perhaps I'm a bit more measured, but you can't. I think if you take anything away from this, guys, you can't please all the people all the time. So yeah. Apologies to everyone who's listened this week. It has felt like a bit of therapy and a bit of a rant. I mean, it has been really negative, and I apologise for that. I wish there was better things for us to talk about, and it has been quite an emotive one. So I hope you've stuck with us all up to this time, because I know it's been quite a lengthy podcast. But hopefully next week when we come back, we'll have a win at Brentford, and we might have a bit more clarity around the new manager or around the club and everyone's roles and responsibilities. But I doubt it. But I want that to be the case. I want Wolves to get back to winning football matches, because that's what we all want. That's what we're all striving for. So, thanks for listening. Dave, where can people find you should they wish?
Twitter at Dave as a Party, and public Instagram at Dave as a Party as well.
Love it. I love it. Finn, where can people find you?
Finn is FINERRZ on everything. I've just had a look, just out of interest, and this podcast is currently longer than Borat, Airplane, Paranormal Activity, Zombieland. So you could have all done something much better with your evening/morning commutes. But thank you for listening, regardless.
If anyone's commute is an hour and a half, then bloody hell.
Great point. Yeah, liar. Great.
Yeah. What a film.
Movie.
I mean, most of those films you've cited there aren't much cop, so I'm happy to say that.
Hey, respect Borat. It's a great film.
Liar is a good film as well.
Fantastic, Mr. Fox. Hey, there's an ironic one.
Jimmy Carrey. Jimmy Carrey.
Yeah,
Jimmy. My mate Jimmy.
Yeah, is that Moisey? I don't know that well.
Yeah, we've just been slapped by Leicester, and fantastic Mr. Fox is slightly shorter. So there we go. Poetic.
Jord, where can people find you should they wish?
At Jord7, Twitter and Instagram.
And where else?
You can follow me on LinkedIn as well if you want to. I've not been posting anything recently, just with what's going on at Wolves and stuff. He's
been flying the flag at half mast.
Yeah, it's impacting my business profile as well. I've lost my mojo and I need it back.
You do.
LinkedIn flag half mast.
I'm M Cooper Wright on Twitter and Instagram private. Matt Cooper Bites on YouTube as well, and also Twitter if you want to give that a follow. We're talking Wolves across all social media platforms. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and most important one, LinkedIn. Thanks for all the new connections this week. It's been fantastic trying to see what all you're getting up to in your working lives. Hopefully the next one is a bit more positive. Like I said again, apologies that it's been a fairly dismal, negative podcast, but I feel like we all need to get it off our chest. But fingers crossed. Next podcast, next Tuesday, when you're listening to it, we've got a win and drag belt at Brentford, and things are looking a bit more on the up. But until next time, guys, take care.